In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the bow, so if you could go grab a rubber band and a paper towel roll, we can get started. Welcome back! Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. I hope these videos will serve as a guide for the beginning violist or even those of you who are more experienced. So today we're finally going to learn about how to hold the bow and the basic bow stroke of Martele. So like I mentioned earlier, it would be really helpful to have a rubber band and a paper towel roll or a toilet paper roll. We're going to be using those to start our beginning bow stroke. So before we get too far into the lesson, we need to know what the parts of the bow are. So this very long part here is called the stick, and it's either made of wood or carbon fiber, and the carbon fiber will look like a black material usually. At the very top we've got the tip, and underneath the tip the hair is connected. And this is horsehair that they take from an actual horse's tail. And this stuff we don't ever want to touch with our fingers because the oils in your fingers can get into the hair and then it won't ever make a sound on the string. So we want to make sure that we avoid touching that with our fingers. At the bottom we've got the winding, and mine is gold, yours might be silver or another color. The grip, which is the black part. The frog, which is the big black box looking thing at the bottom. The eye of the frog, which is the circle, and yours may not have one of those, that's okay. And at the very end is the screw. Now what this does is it tightens and loosens the bow hair. So when we go to use the bow to play, we're going to tighten it or twist away from us. And when we put the bow away, we want to loosen it or make sure that the hair is loose. So if I can kind of fit my pinky in between here when I tighten it, that's probably enough. We don't want to over tighten it. And when I loosen it, we want to make sure that our pinky can barely fit through there so that the hair is loose. We don't ever want to loosen it to the point where the hairs get floppy. That's a little bit too loose. We want to keep a little bit of tension on the hair still. So some other things to worry about when you're caring for your bow. We don't want to leave this in an area where it's too cold or too hot because it is wood and that will be affected by the moisture or the humidity in the air. So you want to make sure that it's away from a window or away from a heating and cooling source. And like I said before, just make sure that you loosen the hair when you go to put it away. So now we're going to learn how to hold the bow, and this is where that rubber band comes into play. So grab your rubber band. Now that we've got our rubber band, I'm going to hold the bow with my left hand, and I'm going to take my rubber band and thread it through the mouth of the frog. That's that curvy part of the frog there. I call it the mouth, that's not the technical term for it. So we're going to thread that through so that we've got a loop on either side, and then I'm going to take that loop and go over the screw on each end so that it looks like this when you're done. There's an X on top and there's a line that goes across the frog's eye. I'm going to do this one more time because the first time I saw it, it was a little bit confusing. So I'm going to hold that bow in my left hand, take my rubber band, thread it through the mouth of the frog till I have two loops on either side, and the loops go over the screw. So this is our bow seat belt, and this is going to keep our hand in the correct position when we go to our bow hold. So after you've got your bow seat belt assembled on there, we're going to learn how to hold each finger. So we want to make sure that the bow is up straight and down, not to the side. This creates a lot of tension on your pinky. So we're going to hold the bow straight up and down, and it helps maybe if you want to have your other hand holding it. And I'm going to take my ring finger and slip it underneath that bow seat belt. And notice that it goes where the finger bed meets the finger. We don't want to be way up here where that first knuckle is, because then your finger is going to be way too low on the frog. Where my ring finger is going to cover the frog's eye. That's how I know that's in the correct place. And my other fingers are going to be contacting at that middle joint. So the stick, the bow stick, is going to be resting on those middle joints. Pinky is then going to go where that X is, right next to it, not on the screw. That's way too far down. We want to be right next to that X and making a curved shape. We don't want a straight pinky. So if your hand looks like this, there's too much tension in that. We want a nice curvy hand. My middle finger is going to kind of go in that frog's mouth, and it's going to form a ring on the other side with my thumb. My thumb is nice and curved. A lot of beginners also like to put their thumb underneath on the ferrule. It's a little bit more stable here, and that's totally fine if that feels better to you. As long as your thumb is curved outwards, that's what we want. And then last, my pointer finger is going to go where the winding meets the grip. So right at that middle knuckle. Now your finger might be longer or shorter than what your grip allows for. That's okay. As long as there's about a finger's width in between those fingers, we're in the right spot. So we're making this shape. If the bow is not in my hand, it's kind of like a C shape. Or you can kind of shake your hand out like it's got water on it and let your fingers flop. And then just bring the stick up to them. Pinky on top, thumb underneath, or on the frog's nose. and that's our basic bow hold shape. If you're having trouble separating out your fingers, a lot of times my younger kids like to clump their fingers together when they start. So this is just a toe separator, and I'm going to stick a finger in between each of these, and it separates out your fingers so that when you go back to the bow, they're nice and spaced out. And I'll put a link below to this toe separator that I have. A lot of times students have trouble with their pinkies falling off the stick as well. So I have these pencil grips, and I'll put a link to these below as well. And I'm going to take that where the pencil would usually go through and kind of thread the stick through that hole till it comes out the other side, and scooch it down till it's touching the butt of the frog. And this one has different facets on it, so you're going to twist it around till you find one of those bigger facets, and your pinky can sit right in there. It's really great for those that have weaker pinkies, and you probably will have one if you're just a beginner. So that's another really great tool that I'll have linked down below. So now that we've got the basics of our bow hold, we're going to practice doing the bow hold again, and then we're going to begin our first stroke, which is the Martele stroke. So I have these really fun, they're wine charms, they go onto a wine glass, and I'll link these below. I'm going to put this right in the middle of the bow, and it's got like a little mouth, so he just kind of hangs out there. This is going to be our guide to where the middle of the bow is. We've got two parts of the bow, the upper and the lower, so this goes right in the middle. Let's form that bow hold again. So my ring finger goes underneath the bow seat belt, and notice I'm doing this in rocket ship or up and down position. It's easier, there's less tension on your pinky this way. So ring finger goes underneath, middle finger and thumb make a ring, pointer fingers on that middle joint where the winding meets the grip, and pinky is on top curved. So once you've got that position, we're going to grab that paper towel roll, and we're going to use that to help us with our first bow stroke. Alright, so now that we've got our bow hold in place, we've got our little wine charm guy telling us where the middle is, I'm going to take this paper towel roll with my left hand and rest it on my left shoulder. And I'm going to take the bow and insert it in there. We're going to try to aim to stop where that little wine charm guy is. If you don't have these wine charms yet, that's totally fine. You can take a piece of painter's tape, and only painter's tape, and put a little mark there so that you know where it is. Painter's tape won't ruin the finish on the bow. So with my paper towel roll in shoulder position, I'm going to take my hand and go down and up, down and up. So these short bow strokes at the upper half, we're going to call these martelets, and all of our bow strokes have French names. So let's do a really quick rhythm. Ticka, ticka, ta, ta. Ticka, ticka, ta, ta. So that's really great. Let's hold that out in front of us a little bit so you can see what's going on. Ticka, ticka, ta, ta. Ticka, ticka, ta, ta. And notice how my wine charm guy is kind of stopping the bow from going a little bit too far. So let's double check in rocket ship position. How's that bow hold looking? Pinky still curved? Thumb still curved underneath or on the ferrule? Fingers separated out a little bit, not too far, just a little bit. Nice and loose. Let's put that paper towel roll back on your shoulder. Stick your bow through. Double check that bow hold. Is it nice and loose? Are you tilting too far this way? If so, roll back the other way. You want a flat wrist all the way down to the elbow, so no weird angles here. Nice and flat. And let's do that ticka ticka ta ta again. Ready? Go. Ticka ticka ta ta. Ticka ticka ta ta. So that's going to be our practice assignment for this week, is just getting really comfortable with the bow hold and doing those really quick and short bow strokes. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about bringing the bow to the instrument, because there's a lot of other tools and tricks that I can give you that's going to help you get a really good sound right from the start. Sometimes it sounds a little bit scratchy, but that's okay. So again, your goal for this practice session is to get your bow hold solidified, nice loose fingers, and practice your short bow strokes, ticka ticka ta tas, all of those. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you at our next lesson.